Do you want a chance to win up to $250,000? Well, you can at 442picks.ca. Here's how it works. Each week, you pick the winners of each Premier League match for your chance to win weekly and monthly prizes. And remember, up to $250,000 in prize money. I'm signed up, as are my Room 442 teammates Sarah and Albert Vitanian, so why not join us for your chance to win at 442picks.ca. Hello and welcome to another fun-packed edition of Room 442. Shaman and Pararia here with you. And Sarah, listen, we've been talking about all these great storylines, narratives all season long in the Premier League throughout the campaign. So today, and I think moving forward on Mondays, we'll focus on one particular story, maybe one particular team. And I think we've got to kick things off the right way. For me, is the story of the season so far. Are they for real, though? That is the question we'll dig around today. Aston Villa, Sarah. What a campaign. Another win on the weekend. Third place. They're a point back of first place. It's freaking December, right?
It's amazing.
We're entering the Christmas period. Are you a believer?
We're almost. I am. I want to see this team succeed. We're nearly at the halfway point, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic to see another team besides the Big Six really making a run. But are they for real? Only time will tell.
Or we'll get an expert on. How about that? And we'll talk to someone that actually knows this club through and through. Mm-hmm. He may be a little biased, but that's okay. It's okay. Tom Nightingale is a football journalist at CanadianSoccerDaily.com, as well as many other publications. Tom, welcome to Room 442. Try and keep your feet on the ground, mate. All right, it's been some season so far. I gave the numbers there and how close they are to first place right now, but top four cemented, right? As a Villa fan or as Villa fans, do you believe this is happening at the moment, or is it just still a bit of a potential cruel dream?
You know, it's very difficult. I won't lie to you. It's very hard to process. I still don't think I've processed the other week when we beat City and Arsenal back to back without conceding a goal. That still seems a bit like a fever dream, to be honest. It was similar to that. You'll remember this, Shams. Obviously, the 7-2 in lockdown against Liverpool.
Yep.
In the empty Villa Park. Sorry for bringing that up so early, but it's the same kind of surreal feeling, to be honest, as there was for that game. But I mean, I think the key thing for me, you're right. It's gonna be hard not to be a bit biased, really. But anyone who's sort of been paying attention to Villa for the last 12 months or so will know that this is no flash in the pan. What's happening at Villa right now? This is sustained improvement under, certainly for a club of Villa standard, an elite level coach in Unai Emery. The improvement is there for all to see on the field, off the field, even the way that people are talking about the club. So it's more than just a run of good form. I think it's sustained improvement, and now it's a question of, obviously, A, can they continue it over the course of the rest of the season, and B, just what is the ceiling for this Villa team, which scares me as a question to ask, to be honest.
Well, let me ask you this: a year ago, when they fired Steven Gerrard, who was going to be the solution, right? Or so we thought. Maybe not. What was your confidence in Unai Emery when they made that announcement?
Honestly, I remember saying at the time that we appointed him, for a club like Villa, who I thought, as I'm sure many people did, I thought Villa's ceiling was looking to break into that top 6, maybe top 5 at a push. And I thought, considering where Villa are and where we've been, Unai Emery is about as high caliber a class of manager as we could possibly hope to attract. I still think that's the case, and it's because I think he is proving himself once again as genuinely, I think he's one of Europe's elite coaches. I know there was, Arsenal fans might disagree. There was a bit of debate about how his time at Arsenal went. But you look at what he did at, Sevilla, Villarreal, even PSG, I think. Obviously, they're a team full of superstars, whatever, but let's not forget, he won a quadruple with PSG. Kind of success that actually hasn't been replicated for them since, I would argue. So I sort of stand by my initial feeling, really, which is that, to be quite honest, I couldn't believe that we'd attracted him. I couldn't believe that, especially going from Steven Gerrard to Unai Emery. That was a trade up for the ages in terms of head coaches. And my prevailing feeling at the moment is still, I feel very, very, very fortunate as a Villa fan to have this guy in charge of our club. You know, we've given him the keys in terms of the transfer market, in terms of bringing in his own staff, just in terms of the way that we run our day-to-day, week-to-week operations. We've given him the keys to the club. And I never dreamed that the first 12 months would go as well as this.
Yeah, speaking of Unai Emery, I mean, I feel like you really have to give him praise for what he did, as you mentioned, at Sevilla, 3 Europa Leagues, at Villarreal, a Europa League. Then he comes over, brings Pau Torres with him. And I think because of what happened at Arsenal, maybe in the Premier League, he is a bit underrated. But when you look at what he accomplished, as you mentioned as well, at PSG, I mean, he really has done so much for the club. And I think regardless of the way the season finishes, do Villa fans really, you know, look at Unai Emery and think he's done everything he could for the club?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I would like to think that we won't tail off badly. I do have some reservations because Villa fans of a certain age will know that 1998-99 season, Villa were top of the Premier League on New Year's Day and then proceeded to win 4 Premier League games in the second half of the season and finished 6th. So we've been in this, you know, we've been in the nosebleed seats, so to speak, before and nosedived. I would hope that won't happen this season, but you never know. But to be honest, I think even if we did have a much worse second half of the season, I don't think I'm alone at all in Villa fans in saying, you know, what I said earlier about it's beyond my wildest dreams, beyond my highest expectations for Villa this season. And even if we now collapsed and we finished 5th, 6th, I don't think anyone could look back on this season and think anything other than we've utterly transformed ourselves as a club in the last 12, well, it would be 18 months by May, but you know, since the Gerrard year. But I mean, like I said before, like the signs are kind of there that this is something that Villa might be able to hold on to. I'm not going to get sucked into talking about Villa being genuine title contenders because my brain literally cannot compute that as a possibility. But you know, 25 top flight wins in the calendar year 2023, which is a club record. Best home record in the league, 8 wins from 8. 6th best away record in the league. So it's not even like I heard this talk about Villa just being a home team. That's not fair. It's just that our home record is so phenomenal that the fact that we have the 6th best away record in the league gets overlooked. You know, only Man City have had more Premier League points since Unai Emery took over. Ollie Watkins has gone up from being, you know, a talented English striker who always scores a fair few goals to being one of the most prolific players in the Premier League. Only Haaland and Mo Salah have scored more since Unai Emery took over than Watkins. You know, it's all, I could keep going. It's all these signs that this isn't just coincidence that this is happening. It's stemming, you know, it was a root and stem reassessment of where the club were at, led by somebody who is arguably the best person for a job like this, I think, in European football. So, you know, I have hopes. Like I said, I think title race, I just can't bring myself to say it. But considering that it's looking hopeful that 5th place in the Premier League might also be a Champions League spot, depending on what happens with the coefficient. Man United are doing their best to damage that with their Champions League exploits. But considering that 5th might be a Champions League spot, there is no way that you can look at Villa at the moment and say that that's not a realistic proposition this year.
Yeah, absolutely. James, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, everything you say there, I mean, I think it's time to start, you know, reworking that computer up top there, that they could be title contenders. Now, listen, I understand it's crazy to think that, but strange things do happen occasionally. And like you said, it's been over a calendar year now where this team's been playing great football. And the away record, I think, speaks for itself in many regards. What is the main reason for this? Is it a tactical switch? Is it man management? Is it improving the young players that he has at his disposal? Is it transfers? If there's one thing that Unai Emery has brought to this club that was just lacking in the most recent seasons, what is it?
I think, you know, we hear a lot in modern football about this elite mentality, this winning mentality, this champion mentality. There's a lot of talk about that. Unai Emery has it. we've talked already. We've gone through Sevilla, Villarreal, PSG. He's an experienced winner, and it's interesting because for a club like Villa, we're the idea of winning trophies is novel to us. In my nearly 25 years of supporting Villa, the best we've done is lost FA Cup finals, sometimes badly. So it's there's no semblance of Villa having this winning mentality as a club, and it's something that under Martin O'Neill in the early noughties finished sixth 3 times in a row, but always sort of faltered at the final hurdle, whether it was League Cup final, whether it was that push for top 4. There was a season we were neck and neck with Arsenal all year and then faded at the end. I think what Emery's brought is a mixture of sort of elite man management, getting the best out of players around him. I've already talked about Ollie Watkins, but people like that who have always been good players. But I think even Villa fans have been surprised at just how high Ollie Watkins' ceiling is, how high John McGinn's ceiling is. John McGinn, in my book, I watch a lot of Premier League football, not just Villa. One of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season based on form and performances and leadership. And I could keep going on with these players, we haven't had a manager like that who has been able to talk one-on-one to these players, look at them in training sessions and everything and say, you're doing well, but you've got so much farther that you can go. And I can be the most important piece of that is I can be the person who takes you there and raises that ceiling. He's done that with pretty much everyone. There is not a Villa player who has gone backwards since Unai Emery took over. And so I think once you have a manager who clearly knows how to do that and gets results out of everybody around him, think how much that must raise the belief, must raise the morale around camp. Like you could see it in Villa City, Villa Arsenal, those 2 wins. This is a team who know they can beat anybody they play. And that's something, again, as a Villa fan in over 2 decades, I've never seen a Villa team play with the confidence, and I would genuinely say the arrogance that Villa have played with in recent weeks, particularly the Man City game comes to mind. We played them off the park for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. That swagger, it's a swagger, right? I mean, even against Arsenal was a better team that day, but they found a way.
Yeah.
Dug deep, found a way to win, right? So even when Villa isn't perhaps playing at its best, it can still, engineer 3 points. And I've seen that throughout this season.
The Brentford one was a great example of that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right till the end. And the nasty streak came out in Villa. I don't necessarily, I can understand as a Villa fan why neutrals might not like Emi Martinez. I'll be honest with you. I can understand why he rubbed people up the wrong way, but he's a classic one of those. Like you love him if he's yours, you hate him if he's not. And Villa haven't had enough of those players over the years, and so we've got that nasty streak and that grit as well. That Brentford game, we had no right to win that game on Sunday, but that's what teams like this Villa team do. They, like you say, they find a way to win, and that's something that Unai Emery's brought. That I don't think it's hard to quantify that. And it's hard to explain how you build that and where that comes from. But Villa have got it, and we've got it in spades.
Do you think ownership is going to be committed this January for the transfer window? I mean, obviously, the team's playing well. Don't need too much right now. But listen, every team needs to improve depth at some point. And listen, there's already rumors about Douglas Luiz being, hunted by some big clubs. And unless your name's Man City or Real Madrid, you're going to fear losing players all the time. Every club fears losing players. I'm a Liverpool fan. Mo Salah's going to Saudi Arabia for Christ's sakes in June, right? It doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Is the commitment and ambition from ownership, do you think, to address that? And if there's one player out of the players you've mentioned who this team cannot lose, who would it be?
Yeah, first of all, I think the ownership is definitely committed. Like Villa have been in situations before where we have had some terrible ownership. Before Wes Edens and Nassef Sawiris current owners took over, it's very easy to forget now, Villa were on the brink of really, really terrible situation. Think Derby County, financial trouble, falling down the divisions. Villa were on the brink of that before these guys came in. And since they have come in, I would say the only thing that they have got wrong in, I think it's 5 years now, the only thing they've got wrong in my book is appointing Steven Gerrard. Everything else they have nailed, transfer market, investment off the field into, the academy and the infrastructure of the club. managerial appointments. Dean Smith as well was the right manager for Villa at the right time. And Unai Emery, they have made the best decision I've seen, I think, any club's ownership make in a fair while. And it's like I said earlier, giving him the keys. And so he's been backed in the transfer market. You know, Villa we're not huge spenders, but we're not afraid to throw some money around where it makes sense. Think, you know, Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby we brought in last summer as well. I think Unai Emery and the owners will be looking at this Villa team and thinking, with maybe 2 or 3 quality additions, let's see if we can go the distance, right? Let's see if we have the stomach for this title challenge. In terms of players missing, Douglas Luiz has been just phenomenal this year for Villa. Absolutely unbelievable in midfield. He was suspended for the Brentford game on Sunday, and we missed him badly. But for me, the biggest, there are 2, and it's at each end of the pitch. Emi Martinez is the best goalkeeper in the world. I don't know if this is. I mean, he was voted as, he was not voted as such, wasn't it? By and what we won the Lev Yashin award, but it's weird to say that the best goalkeeper in the world plays for Aston Villa, but he does, and that's remarkable. That's something that is difficult for me to wrap my head around. But even every single game, Emi Martinez pulls off saves that no goalkeeper has a right to make, and that I wouldn't trust any other goalkeeper in the world to make, to be honest. And that is invaluable. No wonder this Villa team feel like they can beat anyone when you've got a goalkeeper like that in between the sticks. And then at the other end of the field, Ollie Watkins, talked about him already. His level has gone up so much, and the big thing that worries me, because I don't think he would. I find it hard to imagine him leaving if somebody came in with an offer in January. Next summer, if we fall away and we don't achieve our goals, maybe that's a different conversation. January, I'm not too worried about it. But the big worry for me is that we don't have backup for him at all. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's so important. It's not just the goals and the assists. It's the attacking focal point, the hold-up play, the work rate, pressing from the front, all that sort of stuff. So those have been Villa's key men for me this season. I'm not too worried about losing big players in January, but you never know. Who's saying that Douglas Luiz doesn't have a 70 or 80 million release clause that somebody's going to pop in January? We've Villa fans with Jack Grealish, we've been there before. So. But
it turned out okay, didn't it, Sarah?
It did turn out okay. That's very true, yeah.
Yeah, before I get into the January transfer window a bit more, I want to ask you a bit more about Dibu Martinez, because it is funny when you say, the best keeper in the world plays for Aston Villa. Obviously, a year ago today, won the World Cup with Argentina. And I think he got a lot of backlash. We've seen that. And I have to ask you about it, because James and I have always talked about this. That's the kind of keeper you want. And that's kind of what you just alluded to. You hate to play against him, but you love having him on your squad. Doesn't he, though? Like, he does so much for every team he plays for. And you want that. And I feel like, did he get a little bit too much backlash back then? Like, as a Villa fan, aren't you so happy that he wears your badge and no one else's?
Oh, 100%. I understand the backlash to him. He's a confident chap, isn't he? So I understand that comes across. If I was playing against him, I would hate him. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I would really hate my team playing against him. But as a key player in your team, if anything, you want more of those characters, I think. It's one of the things I've liked a lot about John McGinn, for example, this year for Villa, is he's got a bit nastier. He's always been a good player, and his levels raised as well, but he's not afraid to sort of get in people's faces a bit. And while you don't want to see too much of that in terms of like trying to bully referees into making decisions or that sort of stuff, you need a bit of it, don't you? You look back at sort of Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United team and that sort of stuff, and that they had that streak of everyone they played against hated them, and that helps you achieve the standard you want to achieve. Really, I think that's just a truth of football. And Emi Martinez, there is no player in world football, I think, who exudes that more than Emi Martinez does. So, the confidence that he must give his defense and his manager, the confidence he certainly gives us as fans. I wouldn't trade him for anyone, honestly. Mm-hmm. He does some unwise things. Brentford away was another one. He was getting in people's faces a bit more than I think fans or Unai Emery would like to see, really. But I love him. I really wouldn't swap him for any goalkeeper in world football. The number of points that he has saved us this season. And, Villa, like you said earlier, Shams, about Villa pulling out wins when they don't play particularly well. If I was counting the number of games that we'd probably have been dead and buried with a lesser goalkeeper in goal this season.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably need both hands because it's happened quite a lot. But when you have a goalkeeper like that, you stay in games until the end. And when you're an Unai Emery team and you've got the players performing to the level we have this year, if you're still in a game come 75, 80 minutes, turns out more often than not, you go on to win them.
Yeah. I think the reason neutrals want to see Villa win is simply because I want to see Emi Martinez on a trophy presentation.
Yeah, part 2, the sequel.
See what he does to it. Sarah, you got one more for us?
Yeah, I do. We spoke January transfer window, who you don't want to lose. Do you think Villa's going after anyone specific in the January transfer window, or rather a position that they might want to be filled? Or, as you said, backup potentially for somebody?
Yeah, it's tough because, I think there are very few players in Villa's starting 11 at the moment that I think would be ousted by a January signing just because they're the general level we're playing at. We 100% need somebody to compete with Matty Cash at right back. We've pushed Ezri Konsa, who, for my book, is one of the better defenders, one of the better central defenders in England. He's been pushed out to right back on a few occasions this season, either because Matty Cash has been injured or because Cash. I don't think Unai Emery trusts Matty Cash as, 100% as he trusts most Villa players. So I think that'll be a position we definitely, we definitely look for, even if it's whether it's somebody who comes in to the starting 11 straight away, or if it's somebody who just pushes Cash and sees if we can push his level up more. That's going to be an area to address. I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see us bring in another attacker for rotation or for backup. Particularly Villa have handled the rotation with Europe superbly well. Mm-hmm. I was looking up earlier, and actually 6 Europa Conference League games. Everyone talks about then coming back and playing a league game after a European game is really difficult. Villa are unbeaten in their 6 games straight after a European game. But that's going to get harder as the year goes on. We don't play again in Europe till March now, but when we do, the quality of opponent is going to be significantly better than it has been already. So we're going to need all the rotation and all the quality and depth that we can get if we want to keep battling on multiple fronts into the spring. So I think a backup, another attacker coming in so that we're a bit less reliant on Watkins certainly isn't a bad idea. I think it will mainly be sort of depth pieces or competition for places rather than looking to sort of usurp anyone in the starting 11. But we definitely need a couple of additions because, like I said at the top of this chat, as a club, we're completely unused to being in this kind of situation where we have to last and go the distance at the highest level. So we're going to need a bit of help.
That Thursday, Sunday is interesting, that stat. And I guess it comes down to you have the manager there who knows better than most how to do it, right? Look at his history, as we discussed earlier, at Sevilla, Villarreal. He knows all about it. One more for you, Tom. All right, so let's fast forward to May. Honestly, and I know you're being somewhat pragmatic in your predictions here, but where do you think Aston Villa is going to finish? And let's just, acknowledge the fact that this is entering the Christmas schedule where a lot of teams have found out, all right? And it's Villa's first time doing that with this run behind them. Where do you think we're going to be celebrating Villa by May?
If I had to guess, which I guess I do, I would say probably I'll put us down for 5th in the league. I would absolutely love to see us, if we can do a West Ham, what they did last year in Europe, and get all the way to the Europa Conference League final, maybe even win the thing. We're being touted as favourites, I see, by a lot of people for that competition, and it's for good reason. I would take, I don't know what I'm saying. I would take this. I would snap your hand off. Fifth in the league and winning the Conference League. I'd bite your hand off. If we can push up into that top 4, we're really into dreamland scenario. I've got to be honest with you.
You know what, Tom? If you win the Conference League, right, that'll really help the old coefficients. which
That's
might
true,
help that
exactly.
5th place Champions League berth next year for England. But we won't get into coefficients right now because
Yeah,
I don't
leave that
understand
for
the
another day,
Listen, Tom, thank you so much for this, mate. Listen, I and Sarah can speak for Sarah as well. We are really enjoying Villa this year. And you know, I don't agree with having second teams. I despise the whole concept. But if I was to have a second team, it might well be Villa this year. With respect to Spurs. Just saying that. It's been a lot of fun, and I really hope it continues. Tom, thanks so much, mate. Really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you,
too.
Tom.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
That's Tom Nightingale from CanadianSoccerDaily.com. Sarah, seriously, you hear Tom talk there, right? He knows the team as well as anyone. And I understand why he's somewhat guarded in his expectations. But everything he says, it's like, yeah, this is a legitimate force in English football once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And like he said, if they finish 5th, maybe even 4th, like we will see this team again next year, you know, performing. They're going to be in a higher European competition. It's great for them. And he really is right with the way all these players are playing. Like not one player on that pitch right now is underperforming. And that's probably thanks to the likes of Unai Emery, who came in and just really gave the club the shake they needed.
Yeah, exactly. It was a shake. Absolutely. I mean, listen, Steven Gerrard came aboard and, you know, did so well at Scotland, Rangers, and it just was awful. It really was. And to see a proper manager come in now and take over, it's exciting to say the very, very least. And that's why I, week in and week out, pick Aston Villa.
It's the one lock.
It is. It really is, isn't it? Because especially away from home, they've been so consistent all year. It's an easy one for me to get behind and say, you know what, I might, you know, second guess myself a lot with these picks each week, but that one there, that claret and blue of Villa, it is almost, I won't go as far as saying almost a guarantee, but I feel pretty confident each week picking them to win.
Yeah, I mean, but there is one thing we know about football, James, and it's the hope that kills you. It's always the hope that kills you. So I get why Tom had his guard up, because we've all been there, haven't we?
Yes, we have, and we continue to be there. All right, 442picks.ca. That is the place to be. Enter for free and still win money weekly and monthly. It's a long season and loads of money still available. This has been Room 442. Hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Sarah, thank you so much. Our thanks once again to Tom Nightingale. Cheers for watching and or listening. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. Play 442 picks for your chance to win up to $250,000. Make your EPL picks and play for free at 442picks.ca.